10 Typewriter Tales, a collection of stories, written by Thomas Fincham, narrated by John William Cantiz. Seeking help. William waited anxiously with a carrying case placed on his lap. He was very nervous. He was fidgeting too. The office of Dr. Harold Peterman, psychologist, was quiet. He was alone in the waiting room, except for a secretary who was on the phone. "Yes," she said. "I'll schedule you for Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. "Yes, that's right. Please let us know 24 hours in advance if you're unable to attend the meeting." "Yes. Thank you and have a nice day." William got up and approached the secretary. "If Dr. Peterman is busy, I'll come back later." "It'll only be a few more minutes," she said, with a reassuring smile. She was used to people being apprehensive about psychologists. Most who came second-guessed themselves, with thoughts like, "I don't need to be here. I can deal with my problems," or, "Why should I spend so much money when I know the answers?" It was her job to calm them. She truly believed if they came, they had a problem, and Dr. Peterman could help them. "Dr. Peterman is just finishing a session with another client." She was careful not to say patient. No one wants to hear that they are sick, especially in the head. "Would you like coffee or tea, Mr. Burton?" William said, "No thanks." "A few more minutes." She smiled again. He sat down, but continued fidgeting. He had planned this for months, but he was having second thoughts now. He wasn't ready. He had to get out, come back when he was fully ready. "Get up and walk out," he said to himself. "You don't even need to make eye contact with the secretary." He took a deep breath and stood up. The doctor's door opened, and he emerged with his client. Trapped, William thought. "Patricia, I think you're doing just fine," Dr. Peterman said, beaming proudly. "Really, doctor?" "Yes. In fact, I don't think you need to come back for another session." She hugged him and left smiling. Dr. Peterman turned to William. He was tall, slim, with a neat gray beard. He smiled, revealing perfect teeth. "Mr. Burton," he said, extending his hand. William shook it. The secretary handed the doctor a file, and the doctor escorted William into a room. The room was small but spacious. There was a leather sofa and a chair on one side, and 2 chairs on the other side, near the windows. "Where would you like to sit?" Dr. Peterman asked. William wasn't ready to lie on the sofa, so he looked at the 2 chairs. Once seated, Dr. Peterman began flipping through the file. There wasn't anything to look at. He was observing William instead. William's eyes were transfixed on a wall covered with the doctor's degrees and certificates. Dr. Peterman was proud of his accomplishments. He couldn't help but smile whenever a new client gawked and stared at his achievements. Dr. Peterman pulled out a clean sheet of paper and wrote the name William Burton on top. He wrote the date and start time of the meeting. William had already paid in advance, so Dr. Peterman wasn't worried about the end time. "So," the doctor began, "Mr. Burton, I see that on your carrying case you have an emblem of the Department of Treasury. You work for the government?" William nodded, but he wasn't ready to talk about it. He cleared his throat. I don't think I don't really need to be here," William said, sounding unsure. "I understand," the doctor said, without patronizing him. "But you are here. We're both here. Why don't you tell me what's on your mind?" "I'm having some problems." "Yes? Go on," the doctor said in a soothing voice. "My life," William's words trailed off, as if he was thinking. "My life is perfect," he finally said. "And that bothers you?" Dr. Peterman said. "No, it shouldn't, but it does." "Why?" "It doesn't seem real." "Tell me about your life," Dr. Peterman said, leaning back. Silence. William was staring out the window. Dr. Peterman altered his words. "Tell me what's perfect about it." "I have a wonderful job." Dr. Peterman's eyes moved to the carrying case. "I have a wonderful life." Dr. Peterman's eyes moved to a wedding ring on his finger. "I have great kids." Dr. Peterman smiled. Marriage usually equals children. It's just that something deep down doesn't feel right. What is that? I think my wife is being unfaithful. Dr. Peterman leaned back and crossed his legs. This was getting more interesting. Why do you say that? She's always encouraging me to go get a hobby, play golf, join a club, or even go out with my friends, but I prefer to stay home with my family. You think she's trying to get you away from the house? Yes. Do you know who she's trying to have an affair with? No. Your wife's name? William looked away. Dr. Peterman understood. Most clients were reluctant to reveal too much about themselves, such as the names of loved ones. Dr. Peterman absorbed all this instantly. Did you have some sort of fight? Nothing major. Is she unhappy with you? I don't think so. Dr. Peterman dealt with these kinds of issues on a daily basis. He said with extreme gentleness, Mr. Burton, are you having an affair? William was silent. He then immediately got up. Thank you, doctor, for your time, he said with a forced smile. Dr. Peterman calmly stood up. Any time. I have another engagement, William said apologetically. I understand, Dr. Peterman said. He wasn't going to stop William from leaving. Whenever someone is confronted with the truth, they usually try to run away from it. It can't be me, they tell themselves. It's his or her fault. William would be back, the doctor knew. They always come back when they knew he was right. William quickly walked out of the office without even hearing the secretary's courteous goodbye. When he was out on the street, William's lips curled into a smile. A few days later, William was back inside the doctor's office. The secretary extended the same courtesy as when he had first come. Would you like some coffee or tea? Yes, I'll have some tea. He wasn't as nervous as before. He helped himself to tea and some biscuits. A short while later, the doctor came out. Mr. Burton, please come in. The doctor offered a congenial smile. William entered the office and went straight for the sofa. He lay on the soft leather and placed his hands over his chest. Dr. Peterman walked over, sat on a chair across from him, and crossed his legs. He opened William's file and began making notes of the date and time of the meeting. A few minutes later, William spoke. I'm not having an affair. Dr. Peterman said, Okay. I am not having an affair, William repeated. I understand. William fell silent. The doctor said nothing. I did think about it, William finally said. I had the opportunity to. With whom? Someone, he trailed off. What pushed you to think about it? William stared up. Intricate spiral designs etched the ceiling. Dr. Peterman said, Do you want to talk about it? My wife is a coordinator for a telecommunications firm, which means she travels a lot, which also means we don't get to see each other very often, and I have to take care of the children. I mean, she's always on the road, and when she's not, she's on the phone. Is that why you think she's having an affair? Yes, but... Silence. Dr. Peterman scanned the page before him. You mentioned she wanted you to join a club, take up golfing, or go out with friends. You think she wants you out of the house? I kind of, well, not exactly, William said. She wants me to do things with her, go to events as a couple, but after spending so much time alone with the children, I feel we've drifted apart. Dr. Peterman wrote this information in a form only he understood. No need to write everything down word by word, only what was relevant, and he decided what was relevant. William, Dr. Peter said, you're not being honest with me, and unless you're fully honest, we cannot continue. William stared at him. If you need time, that's fine, but until you understand that I'm here to help you, I cannot be of any assistance to you. William looked stunned, but he got up, thanked the doctor, and walked out of his office. Outside the door to the office, William grinned. Everything was going as planned. 2 days later, William was lying on the leather sofa, looking up at the now familiar ceiling. Do all the crazy people find the spiral etchings as fascinating as I do? He thought. At least there wasn't a mirror like he had seen in other places. Imagine looking at yourself stretched on the sofa, talking your heart out. Now that would be distracting. You are correct, Doctor, William said. I've not been entirely honest with you. He paused and thought his words through. I guess I don't open up to people very easily. I mean, for me, it takes time. I have to get to know the person first. It took a long time for me to have my first intimate conversation with my wife. And even now, she doesn't know everything about me, Do you have a communication problem? Dr. Peterman asked. William shrugged. Could that be why you're drifting apart? I guess so. William, start from the beginning and tell me everything. Silence. You can trust me, William. I'm here to help you. Tell me everything, and I promise I'll do everything to help you. William gulped and then started. I don't have a job. I've been unemployed for 3 years, which means I'm at home all the time. I've searched and searched, but I can't seem to find a stable job. Once in a while, some contract work does come my way, but it's only for a couple of months, maybe less. My wife, she has a good job, a high position in the government, makes a lot of money. I guess you could say she supports the family. Oh, we have 3 wonderful children. The first one is 7, the second is 5, and the third is 2. William turned and smiled broadly. They are my joy. He turned back to the ceiling. My wife spends a lot of time on the road, going to regional meetings, giving speeches and presentations, or going for training to some obscure location. This means I'm at home with the kids. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind it, but once in a while I feel my self-worth going down. I feel like I'm useless, but I also think she's hiding something from me. I mean, when she gets a call on her cell phone, she usually leaves the room and goes somewhere to talk, and she would talk for hours sometimes. William put his hand over his face. Do you want a glass of water? Dr. Peterman asked. William shook his head. William continued. We have a lot of fights now. A lot. She blames me for not having a stable job, and I blame her for not being at home. If you found a job, would she prefer to stay home? Dr. Peterman inquired. I don't know. She's always been a career-motivated person. Okay, let's get back to the affair. You think she's being unfaithful? Yes, I do, William quickly said. There are times she tells me she's going to another city for a seminar, but when I call her at her office, her secretary tells me she is in a meeting or out at lunch. There are times she comes home late and says she picked up something to eat on the way. I've found business cards for several fancy restaurants in her clothes. You go through her belongings? I'm at home. Guess who does the laundry? William shot back. Dr. Peterman nodded and scribbled something on the paper. I also think I found someone. Dr. Peterman raised an eyebrow. I'm not having an affair, if that's what you mean, Doctor, William said. I take our second child to kindergarten, and there, you get to talking to other parents, and most of them are women. I've been talking to this single mother, and I found we have a lot in common. But we just talk, nothing more. Your wife could see this and say you're having an affair, Dr. Peterman said. William lowered his eyes. This is what you should do, Dr. Peterman said. First, you set up a day and time with your wife to take her out to a nice restaurant, and afterward, you should find a place, a coffee shop, a park bench, anywhere you feel comfortable, and you should talk. Talk? Yes, talk. That's it, huh? That's it. William thanked him and left. William chose a Tuesday to return to Dr. Peterman's office. From his previous visits, he had found out the secretary was studying to be a psychologist, just like the good doctor. And today, she had a class, which meant she would leave early. He placed a box of donuts on her desk and smiled. For us? She said, placing her hand on her chest in a dramatic pose. Dr. Peterman has solved my problem, William said. Thank you, she said. She picked out a chocolate donut for herself and placed the rest with the tea and biscuits. The doctor came out and ushered the smiling William in. William headed straight for the sofa. Once comfortable, he said, Dr. Peterman, My problems are no more. You were right." Dr. Peterman said nothing, but inside he was beaming. "Tell me about it," he said. "I did exactly what you said, and it worked. Last weekend, my wife was not traveling, so I jumped on the opportunity and took her to a fancy French restaurant. She made excuses, but I persisted, and we had a great time. We talked for hours. My wife was not having an affair. The private phone calls were from her colleagues. She showed me the phone numbers on her cell phone. I do know some of them, so I recognized the names. She was working on a confidential government project, and that's why she would go to the other rooms if I was there." William started laughing. "Actually, she thought I was having an affair. I told her all about the single mother." "Your wife believed you?" Dr. Peterman inquired. "Yeah, I guess so," William said. "I believe what my wife said, and she believes what I say." William coughed, and then coughed again, loudly. Dr. Peterman moved for the water. William quickly removed his miniature cell phone and placed it underneath the sofa. Dr. Peterman handed William the glass of water, and William thanked him. "Anyways," William said, "we cried and we hugged and we talked and talked. In 2 weeks, once our project is complete, we're going on our second honeymoon." Dr. Peterman made a note of this in his file, just in case if William ever came back for more help. "Thank you, Doctor. You saved my marriage. It was all a lack of communication." "I'm glad I could be of service," Dr. Peterman said proudly. "You must have saved a lot of marriages from failing," William said. "That's my job," Dr. Peterman said, shutting the file. William got up, and the doctor followed him to the door. "Thank you again, Doctor," William said, shaking Dr. Peterman's hand excitedly. "I'll tell everyone about you." The doctor tried to be modest, especially in front of his adoring secretary. "I wish you all the best, Mr. Burton. You let me know how everything progresses, good or bad. Preferably good." He winked. William smiled, thanked the doctor for the 50th time, said courteous goodbyes to the secretary, and left. Outside the office door, William's smile immediately faded. Dr. Peterman sat behind his elegant desk and scanned the file before him. His secretary had gone an hour ago, so he was alone now. This quiet time gave him the opportunity to think over the meetings he had with his clients during the day. His mind drifted to his secretary. She was young and very pretty, but above all, she admired him. She thought he was a genius. He was, of course, but he wasn't going to say that to her. Arrogance is the downfall of greatness. He glanced at the file again. This client was going through severe depression. She wasn't married, nor in any relationship. Her job as an inventory clerk was not fulfilling, and her mother was very sick, which required her to constantly be at her side. Dr. Peterman was making her believe her life was not all worthless. Slowly and gradually she was going to overcome it all, but in small steps. There was a noise. Dr. Peterman looked around. The noise was coming from somewhere in the room. He listened carefully. It sounded like the ringing from a cell phone. He checked his cell phone, but the noise wasn't coming from his. He scoured the room, searching for the sound. Only when he was on the floor did he realize it was coming from underneath the sofa. He shoved his hand underneath and pulled out the ringing cell phone. He answered it. "Hello? Who is this?" the other voice said. "This is Dr. Harold Peterman. Who are you?" Dr. Peterman said harshly. "Oh, Dr. Peterman, it's William Burton. I didn't realize my cell phone was missing until I put my hand in my pocket. I decided to dial my number just in case anyone had found it." "I found it underneath the sofa," Dr. Peterman said. "Thank heavens you have it," William said, relieved. "It must have slipped out of my pocket while I was at your office. I thought I dropped it on the train. Do you mind if I come down and pick it up?" Dr. Peterman looked at his watch. It was time for him to be heading home. "How long will you be?" "I'm driving, so not more than 20 minutes. "All right, I'll wait till then." Dr. Peterman placed the cell phone on his desk and went back to his files. William knocked on the office door, and Dr. Peterman answered. "William," he said with a forced smile, "here you go." William took his cell phone, hooked it onto his belt, and smiled. "Thank you, Doctor. You've saved my life twice now." Dr. Peterman smiled back, eager to leave the office. "Not a problem. Glad to have helped." He turned back to have one last look at his office before he shut the lights off and locked up. When he turned, he saw William's face was grave. Dr. Peterman looked down and saw he was holding a gun. The gun was pointing directly at his stomach. What is this?" "Dr. Peterman," William said, "this is a semi-automatic, and it is loaded." Dr. Peterman's brow furrowed, and he said, "You're not going to shut up and move back." With the gun, William motioned to the door to go into his office. "What are you doing?" Dr. Peterman demanded. "I'm doing what I wanted to do for the last 14 months, William spat. With the butt of the gun, he hit Dr. Peterman on the back of the skull. Dr. Peterman fell forward. A sharp pain pulsed through his head, and he felt hot liquid ooze and go down the back of his neck. "Get up and move," William ordered. Dr. Peterman did just that. Holding the back of his bleeding head, he gingerly moved to his office. William knew exactly where the chair was. He had mapped out his plan the moment he entered for the first time. "Sit," William said. Dr. Peterman complied. From his carrying case, William pulled out a fastening tag used for securing wires and cables and bound Dr. Peterman's hands behind his back. "Mr. Burton," the doctor said, calm and soothingly, "why don't you sit down so we can talk?" William was behind him, but he said nothing. "I imagine your date with your wife did not go so well, is that it?" Still, William said nothing. "Mr. Burton? Why don't we just talk, Mr. Burton?" William walked over, faced the doctor, and hit him across the cheek. "Stop calling me Mr. Burton." Dr. Peterman nearly screamed as the pain shot through his face. He slumped forward, trying desperately to control himself. "Don't even think about screaming. We both know your office is soundproof to protect the doctor and client relationship." William pulled up his pants and placed himself on the sofa, facing the doctor. "Why are you doing this?" Dr. Peterman demanded, looking William straight in the eyes. William did not answer. His attention was diverted to the certificates on the wall. He got up and pulled down one that was in a golden frame. "You're very proud of these, aren't you?" William said, holding the framed certificate up in the air. He then smashed it on the oak desk. Dr. Peterman wanted to say something, anything, but instead he bit his tongue. William smashed another framed certificate, then another, until all the doctor's accolades were scattered on the floor. "These don't mean anything," William said. "They are worthless pieces of paper, nothing more." William came back and sat down again. "Why are you doing this?" Dr. Peterman asked again. Silence. "Answer me." William got up and hit the doctor across the face again, this time near his mouth. Blood spurted as Dr. Peterman's upper lip split from the impact. "Keep talking and you'll get more," William said, sitting down again. William crossed his legs and stared at the doctor. He had planned this, oh so many times, mulling over even the smallest details. He couldn't believe he was actually seeing his plans come to life. "You have no idea who I really am," William said. "But I've watched you for 14 months. I've seen you come out of your office and drive off in your Porsche to your big fancy house or your quiet little cottage. Yes, I've been following you." The look in Dr. Peterman's eyes asked why. William understood. "Doctor, look at me. What do you see?" "I'll tell you what you see. A middle-aged man with receding gray hair, a sagging body who, for the past 2 years, has not worked a single day, and who is not much use in the house. What do you think the person he's married to would do?" There was a confused look on the doctor's face. "Have you heard of Karen Atherton?" William asked. Dr. Peterman's eyes jotted from side to side, searching. "Think hard," William said, leaning forward. The doctor searched but couldn't recognize the name. William said, "Let me help you. A pretty blonde, in her early 30s, in good shape, used to work as a librarian until her second child was born. Husband's name..." William stopped. Dr. Peterman's eyes widened in recognition. William Atherton. Yes, the William Atherton, in flesh and blood. Dr. Peterman lowered his eyes. "Did you ever meet her husband, Doctor?" William said. "Did you ever bother?" William got up and began pacing the room. "If I were the doctor, I would have liked to talk to the evil husband, find out if all the stories about him were true. Did you ever try? Did you? William came over and, with the butt of his gun, smashed the doctor's nose. Blood sprayed everywhere. Tears swelled in Peterman's eyes, and the doctor nearly slumped to the floor, but William held on to his collar. William was careful not to get any blood on his clothes. Dr. Peterman's head was bowed low, his eyes closed, and he was in considerable pain. William sat across from him, staring at him. He was enjoying the moment. This was how it felt to have revenge. "Doctor?" William said. Dr. Peterman did not open his eyes, nor did he look up. "Doctor," William continued, "look at me or I'll hit you again." The doctor obeyed. He had no choice. "I worked for the government as a communication director. I traveled all the time, leaving the children in the care of their mother. I was always on the phone, even when at home. Doctor, it was not my wife who did all of this. It was me." William's face contorted. "My wife thought I was having an affair, and she came to you. She told you exactly what I told you in our last meetings. And, Doctor, do you remember what you told her?" Dr. Peterman said nothing. William was ready to get up when the doctor said, I told her to start making another life for herself." William smiled. "That's right. Another life. Without me." There was a pause, and then he said, "Did you ever tell her to talk to me? Did you ever tell her to go to a nice restaurant with her husband, and then to a park to just talk? Did you?" Dr. Peterman shook his head. "That's right. You didn't." William leaned closer. "Doctor, for your information, I was not having an affair. I was working my ass off so I could buy my pretty wife everything she ever wanted. I was working my ass off so I could provide my children everything I never had. I was working hard to keep my family together. Sure, we had our differences, but she never thought about leaving me. Never. Until—" William's eyes became menacing. "She came to you." William had the urge to hit the doctor again, but he held back. No point in killing him when his story wasn't even finished. "I didn't know where she would go every Tuesday and Thursday until one day I saw your number on her cell phone. Guess what? I paid you a visit. Your other pretty secretary told me you were out of town, so I came back, and that's when I saw you get in your car and drive off. I followed you to a nice French restaurant. Isn't that where you had dinner with my wife?" William's brow furrowed. "Correct me if I'm wrong, but psychologists don't have dinners with their clients during off hours, do they?" William lowered his eyes. "Soon after, she left. She took everything, even the kids, but, Doctor, after a few months, I saw you having dinner with another man's pretty wife. Oh, by the way, do you know where my wife and children are? Neither do I. Last I heard, she was in another country, and she was happily married. Go figure." William laughed. "What am I left with now? An old sagging body, no job, and absolutely no future." Dr. Peterman's eyes moved around, thinking of a way to escape. "You'll never get away with this," he finally said. William nodded. "Yes, perhaps. Doesn't really matter now, does it?" Dr. Peterman looked at him. "What are you going to do?" "Now that you've seen me, known my true identity, I'm going to kill you," William said matter-of-factly. Dr. Peterman tried to fight the restraints, but they cut deeper into his wrist. He then tried to get on his feet, but William kicked him in the chest. The doctor fell back, his wounded head smashing into the floor. Blood spread everywhere, soaking the exquisite carpet. This time, the doctor screamed. He screamed like an animal in tremendous pain. William picked up a cushion and got on top of the doctor's chest. "Doctor, I'm not sorry I have to do this," William said. "It was your fault." He placed the cushion over the doctor's contorted face and fired into it. There were 3 muffled sounds, and then the doctor's body relaxed. He was dead. William got up, placed the gun in his carrying case, shut the lights off, and left Dr. Harold Peterman's office. What William didn't realize was that while he was struggling to place the cushion on the doctor's face, the doctor had somehow knocked William's cell phone from his belt. It now rested safely underneath the doctor's fine leather sofa. This has been 10 Typewriter Tales, a collection of stories, written by Thomas Fincham, narrated by John William Cantees, copyright 2021 by Thomas Fincham, Production copyright by Thomas Fincham.